Hey guys, I am the Comics Kid 2099 and I wanted to talk about something today. This isn't really a rant, this is more me just kind of discussing something that pertains to comic books. It specifically pertains to superheroes, and this has been kind of a subject that needs to be discussed. It has been discussed before, but there has never really been a resolution to this topic, and I am not so conceited that I think that this video is going to offer resolution to this topic, but I did want to offer my 2 cents on this particular subject. I wanted to talk today about superhero costumes and where do you go with it? Do you go with the more practical direction, or do you go with something that looks really cool? There are a lot of superhero costumes. You look at them and you say, wow, why in the world would you dress like that? For example, the movie The Incredibles, you had a character there who designed superhero costumes, and famously that movie has said no capes. You do not need a cape because there's no reason that you would have a cape. In fact, there are several reasons why you would not want a cape, and the character then goes into detail about several different characters who died because they were wearing capes. And on the one hand, yeah, if you were a real-life superhero, you probably wouldn't wear a cape. You would probably trip on it. Somebody could just step on it and then you would fall on your face. Or it would get caught in a revolving door or in a plane engine or whatever. Practically speaking, there is no reason to wear a cape. On the other hand, capes look really cool, and I don't think anybody would want to see Batman or Superman without a cape. I think there is something very iconic in the design of those characters that is lost if you try and take away their capes. In fact, several times I've seen various stories where these characters take off their capes and they don't look nearly as awesome as they do with a cape. For example, Batman, a practical reason that he does wear a cape is that it gives him a menacing flair. He kind of has this air about him where he can scare criminals, and in the movie Mask of the Phantasm, where he just dresses up like a thug with a ski mask, he doesn't really look very scary. It's not until he puts on this costume and it looks like he has this sort of shadow behind him. He looks very terrifying when he has this cape and he's jumping out at a criminal. So that would be a practical reason why he would wear a cape. But then you look at Robin, his kid sidekick, he wears very bright colors, yellow, green, and red. Why on earth would he wear those colors when he's trying to blend in and be stealthy and do all of his operations at night, kind of like Batman? It's one of those things where, well, at the time of his creation, the people behind the character of Robin, they wanted to lighten up the Batman comic books a little bit. So they added a character who dressed in lighter colors, and he kind of talked in a humorous way. He lightened everything up. He made things a little bit more fun for the readers. He made things a little less dark and gloomy. 70 years later, there's really not a good character reason for Robin to dress in green and red and yellow. And there's really never been a good reason why he wears those colors. I know some people have jokingly suggested that he wears these colors to draw gunfire so that Batman doesn't get hurt. Haha, that's very funny, but when you get right down to it, nobody actually wants to see the costume of Robin reinvented or redesigned to look, air quotes, practical. If you give him a costume that is black and gray, well, yeah, that's going to look more practical, but it also looks exactly like a costume of the other hero that he is working with. And you don't want all of the heroes in a certain franchise to be wearing the exact same costume. This is why Batgirl's costume looks a little different than Batman's. Even her most similar costume to Batman's costume looked a little different. It had a slightly different color scheme. The design was a little bit different. You don't want these characters to all wear the exact same costume. In the past, I was reviewing an X-Men storyline from the early 1990s, and I talked a little bit about the character of Psylocke. Psylocke has a costume from this time period that I loathe. I hate this costume. There is absolutely no practical reason for her to have what appears to be duct tape wrapped around her legs. There is nothing practical about this. I cannot imagine any reason why anyone would have this going out into the field to fight crime or whatever. I think a big reason I don't like this, but I am able to forgive, say, Batman wearing a cape or Robin having a really bright costume that it's going to draw gunfire, is that I think Batman's costume looks cool. I think Robin's costume looks cool. I don't think Psylocke's costume looks very cool. It doesn't look good, nor is it practical. I think where I come down on this it's okay for a costume to be unpractical, to not really have any practical value in it, as long as it looks cool. There is an entirely different video here where I could talk about costumes that work in comic books and do not work in movies. At the end of the Wolverine, there was supposed to be a deleted scene where the character of Yukio gives Wolverine a helmet, and it is supposed to be the helmet that he wears in the comic book, the famous Wolverine mask. I have never understood why Wolverine wears this mask. Back in the 1970s, where the X-Men's identities were kept secret, it made a little bit of sense. But since then, all of the X-Men, their identities have been made public. None of the X-Men have secret identities. It does not make any sense why Wolverine would want to wear this mask, either in the comics or in the movies. I am one of those people, when I saw this scene, I said, wow, I am really glad that that did not show up in the movie, because there is just no reason for this character to wear a mask. He does not have a secret identity. He does not need something to protect his head because he has an adamantium skull. There is absolutely no practical reason for him to wear that thing, and also, it would just look really silly in the movie. The only reason that they would want to do that is for fan service. And I think a lot of the costumes out there that do not work practically or on a level of, wow, that looks really cool, the only reason that they do that is for fan service. The costume that Psylocke wore in the 1990s, the only reason that that costume was designed was to get 13-year-old boys who are getting interested in girls to buy the comic book, because you're showing off a lot of Psylocke's legs. The same goes for the costume that Michael Turner designed for Supergirl from the Superman-Batman series of the mid-2000s. This is another costume that I really hated because Supergirl is covering about 1 inch of her entire body, and really the only reason that they would go in this direction is to get teenagers who are interested in girls to buy this comic book because it has a scantily clad woman on it. And it's not even that this is a bad costume, although really it is. It's that Supergirl has had much better costumes in the past, but they would go this direction for a very specific and, in my opinion, very shallow reason. Like I said, this video does not seek to solve this discussion. I think always we are going to have this question of which direction do we go? Do we want this character to have a very practical costume that maybe doesn't look very cool? Or do we want this character to have a costume that looks really awesome but doesn't have a whole lot of practicality behind it? I think, by and large, comic book characters are always going to be leaning more towards the it looks really cool side rather than the practical side. Comic books are a visual medium, and so you want the costumes to look very visually appealing. You want them to look exciting. You want these costumes to look so good that people are going to look at it and go, wow, I want to buy this comic book. That guy looks really cool. You want that to be a factor when you are designing these costumes. And sure, there are going to be some people out there who say, why does Grifter wear a handkerchief on his face? I am, in some small part, one of those people. But at the same time, I am also able to recognize sometimes you have to create a costume that is just going to look visually different from everything else on the market. Once you can do that, you're going to have people reading your comic book, I think. Maybe this didn't deserve an entire video. I think it did. Let me know what you guys thought of this subject. What do you think in general? Tell me in the comments below. And if you like this video, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will be back tomorrow with a different kind of video. So until then, I'll see you guys later. Have a great day.